Friends, can all of you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Tashi Dalak, if I said that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So let me organize my PowerPoint here to begin our class. Let me go here and share. I'm going to do desktop. And this is going to be our very first class for day 3. Okay, so all of you should be able to see me.
Right? Yes, we can clearly see.
Going to hide this, so it's better for all of us to be looking at this. So, well, first of all, good morning. And at any point you want me to stop so you can translate, just let me know, okay?
Yeah.
So I just want to say, good morning to all of you coming to our session this morning. And I just want to begin by saying that I'm very thankful for the honor of, working with all of you once again. This is my my third time collaborating with the monasteries and the monks. I was able to visit twice in 2018 and 2019 before the pandemic. And this is really one of the experiences that have really changed my life in many, many ways as a mentor and as a teacher. So I am very grateful for this opportunity to do it once again. So I just want to begin by introducing myself a little bit for those of you that don't know me. If you
okay, should I translate that first?
You let me know, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, so you can post after you after making some statements or in a few sentences, so that I will not have to stop you every time as we move on.
What I can do is just do a couple of sentences and then you can translate.
Yes, that's better. Yes. Dan number to someone Tongman Tandadi, any somebody sure da any Lakbado that are in the Gindubazo the Nyamdo do Chidi Chiagi, da Kodinange, Dozutelia, any Nintabane Tuchis Shugus, that ring Kora Digi, any da and Dewando the Tensumba the Chadigus, Ding Elia, and the Losening Dwalaya Kora, and City Children Davidone, any Chani US, any Tari, that the any Korang Tasuma Chatu Yorwa, Tanda Kanda, Tanda Digi, Jurim Digin alone, and the Korana Yakeven Karichong Sun Lana, and the Korangi Miziria, and the Chiki, Joashuk Chimbushing Drag, Joashuk Chimbutegi, Takanda Sanshuk, Jua Mabush Sons, Tende Imbayin Sonza, any Tari. Tende Kogum now and the Korangi Kawa Sambuchigda, any the Tucheshu.
Thank you. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm just going to briefly tell you who I am. My name is Miguel Reyes. I am originally from Mexico. So in case you didn't know, Mexico is the country right below, as you can see here on the map, is right below the United States.
Rangi Tambo and Gela Korang Udushu is any Gela Korang Milan Karilagi Lavimbaina and Miguel Reyes Shuguyus and Gela Kora and Sasho the Lomba Jacob di Kane Lavimbaina and Mexico is and Mexico di Nabazo Pig Sabra Nano Tonguduas and Sabra Nano Yoba Nashinjigi and Adigi Tagana Utility de Bajicha de Gures Tagana.
Okay. And for those of you that know me, perhaps you have met my wife. Now, in 2019, which was my last visit to the monastery, I actually came with my wife, Carolina.
Ane number so ding area, ane chidang game korangi da sada yorwa, sada tu mingi, chidang korangi tanda daily Tamada with the Kadisha division, and you don't chugulalia korande you get Tamadiris, and a cup to do any koran danyam to do in the US, Mingsi loves.
And when we went to the monastery that year, I have to say that not only was it a great experience for me, but it was a wonderful experience for her because she was able to work. She's also a teacher. She was able to work with all the children and monks that were that live in the monastery.
Chezanda kap to do any Koranzo, any Sada those in a Gwambalia, those in a Korachi road to Sambala, that digi. To Zudi, the Koran Yachi, message in Jimba Samase, Lavado, Morang, Korangi, Sada, Tigin Jimba in Sarwa, and Gigin Jin to Sambala, any Dwagin, Kuyu, and Dundi, Lavado, Pugul, and Chiticia, the Zutegi, and a Pemisivic chick to the message in Koran to Chonsons.
And even though, and this is a little bit of my personal life, even though we don't have children yet, that may be in the future, these are our little babies that we have at our house. We actually have another dog that we recently got, but we have this dog and we have 2 cats.
Ani da tanda Koranilia, ani misegi, ani Pugin KMS, Dina, da Maumba Chicken, da Chang Gujeres, Pugu Meva Imba Inaya, Consula, Tanda Chida, Shimi, the name Mambuse, yes, the Kanda.
And beyond biology, and this is something that I love to talk to the monks about when I'm visiting, teaching there. I also do martial arts. I practice judo. You may know this is a martial art and also an Olympic sport. And this is me a few weeks ago with a few of my students.
The Gela Kora, Ani Chigi, Jingun Siriba Jimba Indu Sambala, Ani number solid, the Ginduba Solia, Lotri the Gawasam Mase, Tigin Alone, Gian Koran, Pige. Tanangazu martial arts to Sambala, that chick attracts sort of say in the Yorwa, Judo that didn't know rest, that the Baina and Dundakashi jigging Elia Kora, and Pigeti, and Yamshu Chajil, that the Zuti the child the US.
A couple of years ago, my wife Carolina decided to try the sport. She actually tried to, work out with me. So she came to the class, and I challenged her to a fight, right? And she put her uniform on, she took me on, and she threw me.
That the cap to the Morangi, any Sada de Pigan Lechene, any dinanola, sport nanola, Zemuna Lechene, any that Morangi, Tanda di Karsagore Pige, that Taxe sort of Jora, Digi, any che to Sama Quenche, and the Tachi Pigela or the Jake to see the number is.
Good. So that's a little bit of who I am, a bit of my history. Again, this is my third large collaboration with the monasteries, and I'm very, very happy and honored to be here among you, teaching you a bit of my knowledge when it comes to biology, evolution, and following the theme of circadian rhythms.
Ani number so that deeds Kari Institute Sambala, that Korangi, any Jabjungi Nizundo with Tindejins, any Tindimba into Sambala, any that Kanda number so dos in Chidichi, Kokupchumadi, any Korampe Missivik Karsagore, Kadin Chemboda, that Korangi, any Chicken Pijuda, any Kinguche, and Tindegi Lopchi Dandini Yondigi Yorwa.
All right, so let's, without any more pauses, let's go ahead and jump right into what will be our third day of going through all these various topics concerning biology, evolution, and circadian rhythms.
Chezanda dile sambala dap tuzich karsugore the ngudre mambu mogo che ane tagara da dus ngazo lobje ma chiri che ins lobjeng ding nanola ngazo ni jushi manda mambu shibu jinro de yores da pena chashina kyengyu seri korang che ti khanlia ane tanda ngazo kyengyu khondo na evolution pigyu da ane tine an tunjin kodre dan rebe ge tuzo lobjeng tuzo cha de yores.
So in the first 2 days with your instructor Dan, he has shown you some background information on biology, and perhaps he introduced the concept of a circadian rhythm, which is a cycle that essentially follows a 24-hour window.
Tan number so ani da dingi gi kharsegore Gela number Koran sogi any Kingu than Revitone, any Kingu, any Chashi Kashi Junguri Chevada, Labado, Dinanola, and Tunzin Kudrigi, any number Solomori, Rarin some Cheores, and Tunzin Kudri Sidusambala, so and choosing Yusashi Junkugi, and then dread that tuning Yundin Jujor, that Chawakari in Baina, or the Zute Chadiores.
And as we spend the next 3 days together, looking at all kinds of information, working with different activities, I welcome you all to really start thinking of basic functions of life, such as, we see in the picture here, we have different organs, that are tied to their functions at different times of the day.
Cheza dangazo dinema ani tuzu ani nima kashi jigdusu nyamdu tambi giringlia ani number song when gena korangi choran surata gomba guye laba yimba ina 아니 단다 세소기 아니 저기 제딘 수수기 가르칸의 연구 요리스에 조르와 the deeper in la sede ke chedin rimambu shibjudwa chedin ri duzu chedi ani tuzu ani koran so ani chongring di khaga cha diru zambala tuzu mandawa digi nalo na chedin susu mandawa yindu zamba tunzu ke chele mandawa khari yosare sede jorwa o duzu kan ya gomba shiro chis.
And as we think, for example, of how our bodies function in strict cyclical ways. So for example, just to give one section here, we have our stomach at 8 in the morning, right? When we wake up, usually we tend to wake up around 8, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later. But one of the first things that we feel when we wake up is hunger, because our stomach is actually very active, and it needs activity early in the day.
Chezanda dilidu sambala da pena chashana da nganzu ani misi gi pension da nganzu karisugore tujugun kundre da nrene ba shuba yimba ina ani nganzu shoge ngamu ya lang yor was ta layandi ani chuzu tuba ye da nga da chinga shi desi cheba chadu gur was yimba ina chuzu nga shi chagi yor te tangbu dinalo le nganzu chora yong jor wa chora yong de karicha yong yor sidu sambala ani nganzu chogo to yong jor wa chik sani to jor wa odi yong yor sti karichin ri sidu sambala ani nganzu chogo gi korsen juegi lega de dusini chedi gi yor was.
Right, thank you. So this is, even though this is a simplified figure of which organs are working what time, they're always working, but perhaps they have more activity in certain times of the day.
Chezanda di kharchagi yore sidu sambala ani nganzu ani pige ani chigi chedin shigi nalogi ani ombuchi gi ani lega chelu chedangi ani penju ani tabdi jires da di imba ina ani nganzu ani tusu jurim gi nalola ani yan chigi lega tandu chigi nyonji cha da mambu shibiji tusu manda we nalol chede dine yungu yor was.
And even beyond understanding high activity of certain organs at different times, I also welcome you to put this into the perspective of life itself and diversity of life that we have in our planet.
Ta gela korangi ani karisogore tuju ani mandawi nanola ani chedin susugi ani chigi lega chiru chedan tandang anzu mandawa yongde tezam mayimba tandu gela korangi ani karikala ing da tonan tigi yela bayimba ina ani chedin chigi nazogi rangshi namangi rangshi mambu yongde yora rinda manda mambu shiwi odi kan le tonan tigi yes.
So perhaps this is a representation of how diverse life is. A lot of insects, animals, excluding insects, fungi, cells, protists, other things, plants. And you could think about the fact that all these living things follow certain cycles throughout their lives.
Da diladi sambala thanda da gangi piri du juthedi ani chigi chede nazogi da chigi number 20 gi dinesh chade gi resta din na number jo siba yimba ina ading na la thanda pena chasna nganzo fungi gi dine ani chigi zishingi ri dinde da ani ya di mayimbe gi ani soja thundu gi busingi ri dinde mambu shiviji da khanda din na se de gi duwas da khanda dunju soja chede yodo chole ya ani koran chola ani tunjim khundru I
also want to say, as I'm giving my presentation here, if anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand and we can discuss those questions at any point in time.
Chezanda number so and you chig any shueji kariye le sambala ani dine ma lobzen tin ru sambala ani number zo ani chigi lobzen den tv twa do yo ba yimba namsa ani shaya do sini ani chang yu chis ani namsa ani dine nga zo twa de lendi shu chog yes.
All right, so we can start essentially by asking, how does life function?
Ta dile de sambala nganzu ani tambu lobzen da ngozu ye de Tiwa Khandeji Kalangu in Labayimba ina, and it's so gay, Lezu Khandere, Seso Gilega, Chawachedan Kalega, Chedan Khandere Sage or what didn't go to is.
So one of the first things that you could start asking and answering is essentially by asking this question, you could sort of start by discussing and exploring how organisms function in their habitats.
Chezan dile di sambala nganzo ani tiwata che lenje che khanda digi kharil ani nganzo la samnon dawo de karum khochu gu yore sidu sambala ani chedin dunzu che digi ani khuran zo ge chi sezo ge chawa chedan lega chedan khande ina se ge chilu chedan khande ina se jorwa odi samnon khogu yore sta khanda.
So perhaps we could say, well, most organisms respond to annual cycles, things that go on an annual basis year to year. For example, the seasons.
Ta number zo pena cha na khari cha ju se sambala ani chedin dunzu che digi ani khuran zo tu jing khondru yue dewa pena cha na lo yung khondru yue dewa lo diya khande cha digi yore sidu sambala namdu gi nalo long khondru dusun ro digi yorwa namdu o tinde ni samtang chog yores.
And beyond this sort of yearly cycle where we have different seasons, well, organisms can certainly also respond to daily cycles, a 24-hour cycle, day and night.
Chezantile di sambala da chendin dunzu tedegi ani logi namdu gi jubable ya ani yalen te batsam mahimba ani thandu khonzu chuzi ni chusapsi gi ani gyungko jorwa o dile ya ani khonanzo ge tedan tegin reda tune ya yalen yores.
And we can also think about the fact that many different organisms not only respond to day and night, but they may also respond to how the moon rotates around the earth, right? In what we call the lunar cycle.
Cheza da nganzu pena chashana ani chidin du thedegi ani nyin dan sengi ani pegela chigi yanen teba mayimba taga na shinchigi ani chig dawen khoju dan dene ani nganzu dawe gi khundre dan dene tela ya yanen tede moon cycle dene dawen khoju dene yongdegi yorwa khundre tunzule yanen tede batende yongdegi yoreste ma ondende.
And perhaps things such as the lunar cycle also impact the movement of water, for example, in a large body of water, and we can call this a tidal cycle.
Cheza da dile di sambala ani nganzo ni dawen khoju je bache dawen khoju yoba digi kenche ne ani nganzo shukjen da uji kawala the du gyo de sambala ai chugi ani gyungko le ya shukjen bu shukjen the di indi sambala nganzo ani tulop se tidal la yong de gyo an tulop de yong de gyo res.
You may know, if you live close to a body of water, well, at certain times of the day the water rises and it essentially floods, and then in other times of the day, it goes down. And a lot of different organisms react to this cycle.
Chezanda number zo tona chong yoba yimba ina ani nganzu chui kan laba do de ding da de yimba ina ani ya ji gonda chu ya la ya mang ro ya de da ya nyungmi gon chu ma cha ro ya de yong de duas chu ma phadin phidi yung duas phidi yung yu de sambala dilia ya ani chedin su gi ya chik ya ne te de yong de yo rest still.
So as we sort of put up all these different influences together, right, we can start, defining how different cycles impact organisms. So for example, the first type of impact can be considered an exogenous rhythm, which is controlled by the environment and it is detected by the actual organism.
Tadila di sambala dan number so tanda nganzu gi ani karse gore kundri manda mabu shiwiji dosi ni pension su lang songa ta dige gi nalo ne ani nganzu ani chigi pigelo shukjin te de jorwa ta shukjin te de tende ani mangbu jore sta shukjin te de nalo ne ani pension chig di khar lagi ore si sambala ani kundri le shukjin te de gi pension chig di khar lagi ore si sambala ani shijin kundri se lagi ore shijin kundri si sambala zo kawal khogu gi ore si sambala ani shin kuyu gi thone shukjin le je tang so
you may want to think that exogenous basically means coming from the outside, right? So you have winter, spring, summer, and fall, right? And all these different seasons have different coloration, different weathers, and organisms detect these changes from the environment.
Chezan dilodi sambala nganzo exogenous sidi sambala tanye korange kodyon karire sidi sambala ne chulo ne ya yongba de se de kodi gi yores chulo ne ya yongba de se de kodi du sambala pena cha shana nganzo ane chigi gungala da namshi na khawai mbai na re ane ya chigi yaga da du thele namdi susu lo pabe ge ane yuwa manda wa yongde gi yorwas chundo manda wa yongde gi yorwas ane da dunzu thedi ane khare yongu yore sidi sambala ane nyengor kende susu gi ane dunzu chu chor thog yorwas ta.
Right. So beyond the environment, another way that organisms can function within these cycles is if those cycles are coming from within the organism. and these types of cycles are called endogenous.
That diledi zambala ya ani da shigin kuyu gitone ya ani karsigo yongde ba zamahimba ani kede nangwe gitone ya yongde dinde yongde gyores ani kede nangwe gitone yongde njo du chede ani pege enkonju ginjwa yongde du chede ya karla gyores du zambala ani du chele ya ani nangjin konju tani de beju tang gyores.
So for example, can anyone in the room tell us what this picture is showing?
That number so dinalogi zinana number so nyamshi yunge suine chigi isirwa pigegi ani pariji duas ani paridi ne dyon kharijin khodo chigu di nin reshi kyuno chidas.
So if anybody wants to raise their hand and just explain to us what comes to mind when they see this picture.
That number so di suye bayina dan cha jangje di chinen digi yores that di khale ani khonan reshi japchana. So all of on each table they do have a mic.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I can ask if someone raises their hand, you, my friend, can actually ask them to say respond to the question.
Yeah. And current wallet. And number so any shajan dig the su.
Anyone?
So one of them saying it shows the hungry.
Right. Absolutely. I would agree with that. I look at this and I get hungry, right?
Yeah.
So like I started talking when I began my talk, well, the movement of the digestive system, right, the stomach, follows a certain cycle, and we tend to be hungry at different times of the day following that cycle.
Dilabdi zambala ta nga zupena chashana ani chogo tongyo jorwas chogo tongyo ya dia ani koranji tunzing gi khoju shedaba ji gi thone ani tangji da dig jesun rogu yores tin rogu yudu zambala ani da nga zu karsu gore didan rene ani chogo tongyo jorwas.
And just like we have the feeling of hunger, we may have other kinds of feelings such as sleepiness, awakeness, and all these different feelings follow certain rhythms that we'll talk about in the next 3 days.
Tadi ani tuje manda wanalo chogoto yuhandu sini yorwas larwa ta taga na shinchigi ani ngazu chi karse gore ani chigi ni choya sodo wutinde ta ani chigi ango yu khoya sodo wutinde ta da ringdam nyobdo cha ringdam na mambu shibi jungu yorwa dunzo chede ya ani ko chig tunzin khondre chigi ani jesu nyene ani jesu ndane ani dinde chini yongdi yores ta kanda.
Thank you. So we started talking about exogenous rhythms that come from the environment, endogenous rhythms, which come from the actual organism, from our own bodies. But we also have a combination where it could be a little bit of both, exogenous and endogenous.
Cheza da number so nganzugi ani nangjin khondre da shigin khondre sine ni number so ngode shuwares da shigin khondre su de sambala chingkhuyu ne ya yung ani shugje ga yung de ba chigna an nangje su de sambala ani kedengi ani subye nangi thone ma yung de chigche di pha tini sam maim bege ani niga gi reman ro chig ani nige gi shugje ne ma sona ani tembu yue de ba tinde gi ri chig yung de yores.
So for example, can anyone tell us what comes to mind when they see this picture of this bear?
Tan number so any chance so in a jig song and dig dos and number so gi tanda di Tom Soda which is arwa Tom Soda with the part the tong into sambala number so gi semna khare sha yung dos chan chana da ujorwa khatring yung dos. Yes, some of them said that feeling cold.
Right, absolutely. Any of you know what it means to hibernate?
Tan number so ani tani nganzo hibernate said the dawa dos ni nyendu de jungu yuwa simje tundu de ni yuwa and di number so ani ju yunge de KUS guni che jo nganzo guni javindu sambala dawa tom de de dawa ni yuwa gunga guni jagiwa. Yes, many of them, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here we have the picture of a bear hibernating, right? And it actually has babies with it. So bears, for example, when it gets cold, and that was a really good response from one of the students, when it gets cold and the light decreases, well, bears will go into a little hole, a little cave, and they will fall asleep for many, many months.
Cheza di lidi samba tagana res, tab pena chashana tanda di khariji par di khariji tungu yore sudi sambala, ani tanda tom duzute de guni yagyo dewa namba tungu yores, gunkani ya guni segyo. Ta di nano la namba so ani pa siba yimba yina, ani pugu duzute de pige pa, ani tsangdi gyo dewa chik, ani tanda zinda nano la namba so gi, ani lende namba nashinchi gi, ani 지금 남식이 아니 장무 초라 줘와 다가나디 님의 외에 마차 아니 장무 초 아니 딘데 진용데 데 다가나 차되기 레스타 간다 아니 군이 geb스디 삼발라 아니 톰도 주체데 아니 다와데 아니 예샤기 레스.
So what happens is, in this particular example, the bear will go to its burrow, it will fall asleep, and it will conserve energy throughout the winter, and it will not wake up for the whole winter.
Tadiladi sambala pena chashana karisugore tom duzutindu guni gebigi tuinti rinlia karichigi ore sidu sambala anu kunzu dingelia china tanda di ane chigi nganzu niba mambu shiwiji da nyaksa che jorwa dinde chidu sambala ane kunzu gunga gi da ring chazan ya da dusini nyeni shashagi ores.
So if you think about this particular cycle, this rhythm, right? You have the temperature, the decrease of sunlight in the winter, affecting the organism, and the organism responding back to all these environmental cues and acting on those cues. So we have a mixture between exogenous and endogenous influence for the actual rhythm.
Cheza diladu zambala da dinala nabazo karisebu tongtugu yore sidu zambala nganzo ani pige shin kuyu gi namji gi yuwaji gi tone ani chedengi tiliya shujin tegi yuwache tendre gi yuwa teleya ani chedengi pha yanlen jite yanlen ne ta pige la chi karisegore gyulumu nye de yondegi yorwa ti yungu yudu zambala ani gunga sama nye de yondegi yudu zambala ani thengul bidnesul karicha de yore labayina ani shike na nangji niga gi ani number sang dingyo doji ta di cha de yore sta kan kundre.
Okay, my friends, so now that we went through exogenous, endogenous, and a combination, let's have a little activity where we're all going to get together and come up with different examples for each particular group. So we have a little activity.
Ta number 2 ta nganzu dinanola ani shige da ani nangje da ani jema du sin number chemba sumji kan du sin nganzu trimishu suas ta number 2 ani chama ani ruha gi nyamle gi thones and da dunzu chediya ani chigi mandawa mando sum samji du sin ani chego dan de nganzu di cheris.
So I'm going to put this particular link on the chat, so all of you will have access to it. And this is perfect because in the room, I see that you're all in different tables, and each table can be a different group, right? So for 15, 20 minutes, we're all going to come up with different examples for each group, right?
Chezanda diladu zambala number so khare recha sidu zambala pasi undu zambala ani chogze rire kala mandawa chozi mandawa dinde yudu zambala ani chogze rire gi imba wanta ani di indu zambala ruka da digi nano la ani peje kama chonga zirwa ani dige gi nano la ani quran joguta chegu yagi ani penje sumri doji tigu udwa odi che dinis.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the link on the chat. Do they all have access to this, each table?
Yes, they can have the access to the link. Dan number so tanda ngazu di trasi jorwa di trasi di china tanda kunzu ki tanda mege ngazu ani yigi dansa ke semba jowa odina login lapsra da di ani number so la pejin tanda ngazu Google Class na login pasan lag dan yu bayina di teacher sambala session rigor.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the chat. Just bear with me here.
One thing you can do is also they do have access to the Google Classroom. You can share it in the Google
perfect.
Classroom.
They should already see it there. So
yes, they do have the link, so you don't need to share it again.
Okay, I don't need to share anything. Perfect.
Yeah. They do have the link.
Yeah, so it's called Day 3 Morning Activity.
Yeah, tadilia ane nima sumba gi ane ngadru gi chegus dusine semba ding ming di wol yes ding sambala dingo shana.
And I see people already joining. So what I'm going to ask is that each table is a different group, so that way they don't, put the same answers in each group.
Tadile Sambala, and the chosen Manda Yungudua, and the chosen Manda Yundi Sambala, Denzulia, Pezio Manda attended, and number to do in the Chinese.
Perfect. So we'll spend 15, 20 minutes just answering these questions, and then we'll come back and we'll share our responses.
Cheza da number to Karin Sidu Sambala Dilia Kamachunga Zidus in the Tuzudangi and Tene any two numbers sogi, any landy
Okay, so I'll start the timer. We'll do it for 15, 20 minutes.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you know when they finishes their work in 15 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll be here.
Yeah, okay. Dumba ne kama nyiri se da kama chonga tamba yimba ina dunda kama chudun.
I only wish that I could read Tibetan because I'm seeing people answering, but I don't know what they're saying.
Link dan atanda di kana di koran kan do de di link de number selects yorwa di ko bi chetu minde chetu do do de kona do minde ane di on din de le do on le selection di da ko ke ko number two, any this slide the susu ruka ki slide the yanchik susu kaji imba the ngeba sema do chinji yan chi kaji kan sama ge nyam the tide di cha dan chu yunda susu ki slide the kobi che gu yena kar che gu yena ya mena dina no ruka on the slide number thagana digana dam shoda on slide number the on to stable che thagana di table number thangbu dine re ke masa
I'm looking at the answers, and you're all doing a really good job, by the way.
Hello. Yes, some of them finished, but some of them are still discussing.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
they're fine. Yeah, they can have more time. Absolutely.
마상의 유해, 마상의 균도 참인다. 오케이. 오케이. 주세, 나머지 사모 주세. 마중의 유해. 사모 주세. Yes, they have finished, completed.
Excellent. Let me go into the activity. So I'm noticing excellent answers. So for example, some groups put hibernation, night sleep. Well, so first of all, does any group want to share your answers before I go through them?
Okay. 나 겔라 코란기 피게 치단데 디 시체 아니 넘버 저기 아니 랭 카르카르나 요바드 피게 겐 코란기 시투기요 서바 이네 데 겔라 코란기 피게 마타베 응외리야 아니 넘버 저 루카 응외네야 아니 루카게 렌디 카리 이메 아니 넘버 저 아니 냠주체 등에 데 US 송 등에 데 US 루카게 렌 야 Okay, group number 1.
Okay.
They want to share their responses.
Okay, go ahead.
The falling of leaves during an autumn, flower blooming during spring, drying up most of plants during winter.
That these three are the exogenous.
Endogenous, thirsty, hungry, urination. Combination, hibernate, night sleep, and waking up at morning, active mice during nighttime.
Excellent. I think I would agree with all these answers. Absolutely. Thank you. Excellent answers. Any other groups want to share?
Yeah, number 2, Ruka Shemba dinde something in the US. Okay, yes.
Table number 4.
Table number 6.
Yeah, we have discussed with the indigenous
And
was change in sun's ray and jet lags and change in skin color, and indigenous that first one is thirsty and sensitive sleep combination, which was the meditation and marmot sleeping in winter and caterpillar fungi.
What do you mean by caterpillar fungi?
caterpillar fungi.
The
So,
caterpillar fungi, it's no. Yeah, it is in winter. This caterpillar will be the worm, like a worm, and then in winter, summertime, that will be the. It look like a grass.
So
Said,
these caterpillar fungus is quite common in Tibet. And usually during the summer it comes in the form of some sort of plant, and then in the winter it transforms back into some sort of insects or creature. So it has some sort of a unique characteristics. So based on season, it changes its form and yeah.
I agree, except I have to say that it doesn't really become a plant. What it does is that it changes its shape. So it may look like a plant, but it's not a plant.
제자다 넘버서 아니 직가르신이 있으자말라 코란소 디요레스 타페나 차샤나 지신가시 직르와 파타두 잠발라 지신 임바체 sob다도 좀 유두고 되와체 지신게 넘버 요되와체 따두를 지신 라고 요르테 이나야 아니 되응어블 페게 지신 레디오 마레스 소자 덴데 요레스 소자.
Excellent, excellent.
And I think the group number 6 raised their hand. They wanted to share their responses.
Please.
Yes. Hello. Our exogenous is season, day-night cycle, rain cycle.
Perfect, rain cycle. We definitely have a lot of cycles where it rains a lot and it rains less, depending on the cycle, right? Absolutely.
제가 다른 라인 결한 게 되게 나눠 직송션에 야고도 지나간 좀는디 참여기 안 켄도치도.
디라 남디 조제저라. 디체 아니 칼로레 공다 세무다 니모 조제데체로 아니 디 차비 디데저라.
차두.
차디데.
오케이 오케이.
디체로 아니 다 난게저라. 난게데 갈라나 저거도 해데체로. 아니 슬립 사이클 아니 다젠 파베저라 부물. 다젠 파벤지.
가르토 열사.
Menstruation.
아네. So the endogenous Hungary,
right?
Sleep and menstrual cycle, monthly. Yeah.
아니 제마데 칼라나 hibernation 에다 아니 migration.
That's a good one.
Migration.
Migration.
아니 breeding season 에데.
Breeding season.
Excellent.
The animals breeding season.
Excellent.
And the 저기 군이게 대다 아니 단다디 키기 남들을 때문에 대조체 줘와 어디서 되드레스.
Excellent. Very good. I would agree. In your
and group and another one, group number 7.
Group number Dumbai.
Dumbai, yes.
Ngazo chigedela di lisum sura. Tambodela ni tonga kapso loma matsaya jura.
Tundu
go loma matsaya. Dini nomadic migration handati drogba phazu
nepe
ani sumbadela pollen allergy di anzu kadati medo allergy chagda medo
pollen
ani yamana odi.
Yes, the exogenous are the falling leaves in the autumn. And then the migrations of the nomad from one place to another, and then the fallings, the pollens, the pollens on the tree, falls on the summer and something like that.
My wife is super allergic to pollen.
Morangi sada di pollen la kyon intugu mare sigdu tanda sindu sa jora medog sindu sa. ngae tagana inla gusal
Dini nangkedela diti ani ni kuejura. Ni kueche ani chogotoeche ani anda daze lesdwa.
But endogenous is the same as the previous group shared, the sleeping cycle, and then the hungry, and then the monthly menstrual. Yeah.
So wait a minute, did you look at other groups for their answers?
그런서 네 루가 셴발 파주 때 인베스기도.
건성 아직은 땡에서.
It seems the other guru looked to them. Not
The other way around.
not the way. Yeah, another way.
다 제마디 들으자 아니 going to bed early during winter 아니 군두가 아니.
군두랑 아주 미 인바는 예들왜.
the 미래요.
Okay. So the combination is in the winter we women tend to go bed a little bit earlier.
Okay, and we're very cold, right? So we like to cuddle up and stay warm. Absolutely.
타란 디기두스 간도 장무치할 삼발라 니 사부진 대구요르와스.
디니 야르가 가서 아주 군가 가서 아주 징범하고 보였어. 정말 게임. 어디 combination.
And also during the winter we need to go more frequent, urination, increasing urination during the winter. 아니
디니 아주 공가가 불러 아주 남주 장미 게임에 수고야 뿐이야 랑아서. Goosebump
the goosebump in the degree. And during the winter also we do experience of rising our hairs on the body, some sort of goosebump.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Excellent. You all come up as I was going through all the different answers. I was fascinated by what you were all answering. I even looked up the Himalayan beaver, and I learned that the beaver from the Himalayas also hibernates. I did not know that.
The numbers of Kashi Jigdina Himalaya Gitanangas beaver system Balkala or the Pugila Chivarwe from the Ramaria.
So very
so Dinzuti any anti Guni Jig you in the USA and Dingy how muscles Chivarina only.
So yeah, thank you all for working on this. And let's continue going through our talk here. So let me reshare my screen to go back to our PowerPoint. Desktop. We're going to go back. Okay. So we did the activity, we shared our responses, right? So we can now jump and really, start asking what truly is a circadian rhythm, right? When we think of a circadian rhythm, it is a type of a cycle that follows a strict 24-hour cycle, right? And this comes, the word circadian comes from the ancient Latin for meaning about a day, a 24-hour day.
Cheza that number so any that anzugi any rugagi nyamju che da duzuti te sama tru sa bache dinema da anzu ngozu ya di chiwaji gi thone chiwadi pena chachne tunjun khodu sena an kharre la jorwa odi is ta dilebu sambala tunjun khondu de zo khande sin khogu yore sidu sambala ane chuzi ni shuzashi gi any gyunkol nano le ane chikin dre se le tun chine yongde ni su jorwa yongde gi tanganzo subu gi chele yimba na tinde jile se de gi yores ani chida ani circadian rhythm se again thanye khoran gi thomen jongkong dawdi latin nalo yimba che latin gi thanye di gi khoden dawdi khar lagi yore sidu sambala ani da chik chuze ni shusap sig nalo nima chik chagi yorwa da nima chik course e son dawo jora nin chik course e jorwa odi chade gi yore sta khoden dawdi.
So you may be wondering, some of those cycles that we were talking about earlier in your responses, they weren't based on 24-hour days, right? Or 24-hour cycles. This particular cycle, the circadian rhythm cycle, is always following a 24-hour day period.
So you mean the previous different types of the circadian rhythms?
Yes. So what we were talking about with the activity, not all of them follow a 24-hour cycle, right? Some
okay. Yes. Bala ane number zo tanda dingi gi nganzo ane jik chego gi nalo na keji she de du te chama mang che de karri sil sambala an tanda nganzo chuzi ni shu tsashi gi ane gyungko gi tegin dre chi gi jesu ni ne an taga dan ro de ju cha de gi rest ta kanda.
So what is also very interesting is that when we think of a circadian rhythm, as we see with this picture with this sand clock, right? Circadian rhythms are usually attached to the solar movement, the movement of light in our planet.
제자다 nganzo ani tunzin khondri se live in the sam me we parshan was that the ladies dan dewa cha de yore la ba yimba yina ani nganzo we forma bo jorwa da karse gore ani ta pegela nimi we forma bo da tega dewa yiden jo mo tinde gi ne dan jir cha de yore se nimi khoju dan.
So what you could think about is a circadian rhythm as a kind of a clock following a 24-hour window, where you can have all different kinds of processes following this 24-hour clock.
Bala tang adu circadian rhythm tunjung khodu sidi sambala number zo kharejil gomba shen digi yore sidi sambala da dawjik tindejil sindi digo res chuze dawjil sam dia ane chuze ko chuze yang ngeje yudu sambala an dige nanola ane chiki chelegi rinda mara mambu shiviji che gwa jong digi yorwa o ana dil jesunye dinge tindeji samdana digi yores.
So for example, here we have some data from a research from 2010 where we have the movement and the emergence of different types of RNA, which is of course this genetic makeup, right? These proteins that are sort of moving up and down in their emergence throughout this 24-hour window.
That dile di samala sir tunzim khondri di udus khalsegore pege na nyamshi na ta yundu sambala so thanda nganzo ane chigi rizegi ta khanda legaj khare chewa ina koi gyabjung di chigi RNA da zo mangbu shibiji yodigi yor was that the yundu sambala thege gi ta chigi parshar so dawjik. So you are basically saying the RNA are the behind of these and the emergence of these activities or what?
Yeah, so basically in this particular research, what they looked at was different types of proteins, right? Going up and down in their amount based on this 24-hour window, and they go up.
Okay.
Different kinds of protein.
That number so digi any nyamshi digi no so number 20 the current 20 yore se sambala and choosing nishu sashi gin kondu gin no la hasirwa ta nganzu pena chashina RNA DNA gi sung zawa sumbik tone nganzu tinze mandawa jung digi yor was that choosing nishu sashi gin no la and tunjung kondu dan DNA and gi tinze yam parcha jorwa or digi number the 20 yore number so perish do adina no la.
So we can, after knowing that, for example, the proteins in different organisms, and this, by the way, was taken from a fruit fly, a very small insect, right? We could ask, well, how ancient or how did these circadian clocks evolve?
Tanda ki penzu tasha wa tashan jo do this the penzu tasa de khawalte yore se sambala nganzu fruit fly se sambala ane nganzu chigi chikin shinde dinde lang ko de gem bu chunjun jiwa o digi ane phige ge tinze ge phaja ge dil pe tashan jo res ta nganzu di ta inde sambala ane nganzu jabjung gi nizu yan di chigi tunjun khondru ge chumring gi thone te ba yimba ina yan o shiviji chig nyecha gi tinde chungchen jo ke maimba ani dangasa ni yedin jo gi number da uchi kan yungu yores.
So in this figure, which is of importance, we have the timeline of our planet, 4 billion years old, a little bit more ancient than that, starting at 4 billion years old and up until today. We have the emergence of different groups, but also along the evolution of all these different groups, we have the bacteria, the archaea, and then you have the more complex organisms. You have very early on the evolution of different kinds of clocks, different kinds of rhythms.
The delay sambala number zonganzu igi gangi ti delete ba yimba ina ani nganzu tuzu gi ani number de tungu duas tuzu tundu sambala tanda chiglo tembu ne tembu ge jare duwa antine tanda ba che dige tanda pang nano ne any kidding da soja gi rinda mena mambu shibji tu du de ba tanda nganzu tinam bucha da argi thasin da sisin da anu din soja da de mambu shduwa tine ma ani khashi ji kharse digore ane chigi nyingden thabunda khashi jing nyingde thabunda dinde ring mangbu shibji thude do zu tyen de gi res tang anjum phe yu thone gyapche ane nam du chikte yundi sambala ane khare ha gu yore labdi sambala tunjing khondre the ane ta kap to do ne khalsu susulia yue de ta kanda chigna shu do jin ma de gi de ha gu yores.
So you could see all the different kinds of clocks, the antioxidant clocks, the blue-green algae clocks, the kinase clocks, the plant clocks, fungi clocks, and insect and mammal clocks. And they basically follow this pattern of very early evolution, and they all flow one to another.
Chezanda number to do in the table in Bayina, Benachashana, Tanang Zupigi, Algi, Sishin, you are Tanzutegi, any Karsu, Algi in Butcher, Dindiri, Sishin, that Dindiri, any chick choose you, they were chick, Tinema, any chick Sishin, choose you, they were chick, Tinema, and then Anzuchi, Shamugiri, Dindrik, Sishin, you are Tanzuki, choose you, they were Tinema, and in Buddha, and chick Nusum Jesus, choose Kanda Tanjing, Tunzin Kotis, Sambala, choose it, in the degree of so or Tinde, you, they were Tindation number 20 years.
So what is really interesting and the way you want to think about this particular question is you have the evolution of all these different clocks and how that relates to how all these different groups are related. We have the ancient bacteria, right? We have the archaea and the eukaryotes, the true cells. I'm sure you all learned this in your previous bio classes, and they all relate to one another. Archaea being more related to the eukaryotes, and these two being related to the bacteria.
Cheza dan number so dilabdi sambala penachashana karre sidu sambala ani danganzo karisigore ta ine ma ta yundu sambala ani chini mambu shibiji dusine ani koranzo susu la tunjin kondre duzute de mandawa ta yungdi dan number so ngodu che saswa ta digna lo koranzo phazo design rabu jugwechem ani dig ke je dig doa design digna lo penachashana ani chik butha da ani akida uk da ani Ukraine da duzute de manche jing ningdeng thabun dan dewa shukchim che akida ani yanching butha da nyam dan dewa shukchim bu yedewa ta duzute de chade gi yores.
So now the question is, yes, we know that all these clocks are quite ancient. They evolved a long time ago. But the question really is why, or what is the importance of their evolution? Why is it that such important clocks evolved through time?
Da diladi sambala da nganzu gi khalla gore da duzute de ani chiki nawi gi da tujuk nalo ski shini sambala gyurumbu shibi chingdin juji tinde yin deba chikche ani tine ne nganzu da pena chashana ani pigyu nalo la ta duzute de chungnim jor wadi ani khar ke chimbo kharichini chagi yore side gi tiwa de chade gi yore sta kanda kharichini tigesi ji ke chimbo chade gi yore se jor wadi zudan drede tumne.
And perhaps the way that we may want to start answering this question of why we have the evolution of the clocks is because across all these different groups, the fungi, bacteria, mammals, all those different groups, the evolution of circadian clocks or cycles provide different kinds of benefits.
Different kinds of what?
Benefit, a benefit. It's helping the group.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That deal is a benefit, okay. Ani that the color go to Sambal and Pegu Tony and Zotindegi, and Chick Tunzingi, Yungwe, the Karichini Yuna, Sangazo do stay in Sambala, Ani that carried Tandangazo Shamuri in Bainere, any Butari in Bainere, that Zuteria, Tunzun Kundri Yunde, Dig, and the Koranzo and Pegu Tone, and the Kari Yungu Residu Sambala, the UD, the Consulia benefits, Kevin to take you the Hako dig your rest, Takanda.
So perhaps many of these different clocks of these rhythms evolved to provide resistance from outside harm, from pathogens, from sickness or illness.
Cheza dile du sambala ani ta chine susu da nyiri du zotelia ani tanam pinju gu thone tunjun kondre diresi le yundu sambala an tunjun kondre tigi ani kevin da bu kari tigi yore laba yimba ina ani chigi pinesu ani nyoba kingen rawu yimba imane naza yimba ine da dindre gi susu ani chig dongne che gi nyuba na masona resistant che jorwa dongne che du zotedi ani shukchim bu yongde gi yode ba tigi gi thone ani kevin yode ba chig kejishigi yores.
So for example, we can go back to the earliest group that evolved in our planet, the bacteria, and we can ask, give some evidence as to how this particular clock or these types of clocks evolved.
That penetration and to the digging and all, any chiggy pension of chick, any butagri, the pension to Lambacheche, any Pijugutone, any Tanda Zutede, Tunzim Kondrugi, Piju Zutede, Consulia, and the Candage in the Chumba racing on the pension to the Shuba in Bainas.
So, for example, here we have the dynamic movement and cycle of bacteria going from daylight to nighttime and again to daylight.
Tanda bazu din nano nga zu khari situgre laba yimba ina tanda pige ge pari dig nano ala bucha ri di ani chigi nyimi khonda ani yang jing semo ta dige ge nano ala ani chigi quran sugi an khoji jorwa an tam nyimi khon sen ne ya nyimi khon da dig namba de nga zu ta thu yores.
So, for example, it has been researched that in bacteria, in certain times of the day following a regular 24-hour cycle, there are attachments to special proteins that give rise to certain pathways for metabolism in the bacteria.
Certain pathways to what?
Yeah, so you have different proteins attaching at different times of the day, and this of course gives rise to metabolism and other functions within bacteria.
Da dile di sambala chona nyamshi ba yimbe chane ne nyamshi ba ji gutone kare ha ko gu yore sidu sambala ani chigi buta duzu thede ani thongbu khadu yime ta la thonda la an digi nano la ani kunzu chig tinje tinde pha garche tinje tinde pha ta che an digi chering bi thone ani kunzu da chig active khadu resha ani ma nye de khadu reche se jorwa o digi thone ta gu yores.
So staying with the idea of what exactly is happening here, this is not always an easy question to answer, but perhaps you have this cycle to keep different taxons from meeting each other, right? You want to avoid a toxic environment for these organisms. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is if you follow a cycle, right, you're keeping different proteins that should not meet from meeting each other.
They should not meet for each other?
Right. So by avoiding the attachment of certain proteins at certain times, you're avoiding a toxic environment.
That dila di sambala kunzula karichigi yore sidu sambala ane tinze mandawa ta ashagi yor was tinze mandawa ta di sambala ane tinze mandawa duzu thedi ki chele de masuna karichagi yore sidu sambala chik tuze niming dre de tungu yoba inare kanda tuze ngejin chigri ya yan chig yo dingen da wujik pa che gonge ki chele yunge jorwa tinde chade gi yores.
So you're essentially coming up with a cycle that is smooth and is keeping chemicals from meeting each other or chemicals that should never meet, right? And you're making the process efficient when it comes to spending energy.
That dilo di sambala pena chashana digina nona ane chigi karsi gore. That enjoy the man jambu chin enjoy tundala pena chine zejog pikitone ze yumba inare zejog tone any penzu chigi chilipan che ani chigi lega gi cherim di ani pa tagda che thunge dinde kalan rogu yor was.
And even staying with this idea of clocks within bacteria, right? You can turn them into a 24-hour circadian cycle. Don't worry too much about the details in this figure. This is a very complex figure. I'm going to simplify it for all of you.
Cheza dile di sambala nganzu pena chashina buta jigi ani chuzi nishu tsa chigi khopshen rodan digi nalo ala ta pena chashina tanda koranzo ani chigi yandi shifta gi nisu di number zo di nalo duate ine ya duzu te di shifta gi number nisu duzu te ya number zo gomba shegu mares duzu te di ani chigi nyungzi chabu yores tin di sambala ndeshe duzu te di gyagmes.
So the only thing you need to worry about is that there are some elements, for example, in the input that are coming in following a particular cycle, and they have a streamlined, highly efficient cycle, which is kept together by clock genes within this rhythm, right? And they have an exact output as a response to this pathway.
Cheza delu di sambala da nenga chi karcha degi yorisi di sambala da digi nanola ani zejo dinde ze kashi ji zo di ani tuzi ngejin ji nanola chirin pe degi tenya ani ko tuzi dan rewa yungshen ju chi ani lega chiru chedan zu de cha chubo da tuzi tagda kala che dinge che ani yane te de zu de tagda yung dinge da khanda dinde jue de ba dinzu de di yeba di number za ha ko ne digi yores.
And by making this pathway efficient, you could see how well it is put together, right? It's very efficient, it is very well organized, Therefore, you are creating less damage to the organism and less stress.
Kezanda dindegi ani lega gi junam dawji masun di lega yang tabaji chebala kari gugu yore siri zambala ani number chema pena chashana ani ruka duzu thedi gi na da chi chokba dawji mana chokba digi na no ne chama nyamle yabuji che nyamle gi cheba yimba ina ani dig langa dili an thuja manro wat nan dre dili an thuja mathe ba yong dia an tinde yongur was.
So for example, this notion that metabolism follows a cyclical cycle allows us to utilize this type of knowledge and research things such as obesity and diabetes, which is really important for human health.
Da dindegi ani nyamshi ba duzu thedi da duzu thedi ani chikin dre chikin alo ndugu ye de ba da ani duzu thedi number hatta indi chambala dunzu gu thone nganzu pena chashana ani chigi naza gi da utende ani chig taga na singi pena chashana naza gi rig na no ani nganzu chigi jane jaba chayo ge naza da te mayim be gi ya chinyi gi naza yon de o da dunzu da ani me ina re o dunzu li ya ha ko indi chambala ani keben chimbo yores.
So let's say we want to move away from bacteria, from following this sort of metabolistic pathway, and we could jump into different organisms, right? For example, plants and other kinds of things. And we could say, for example, that growth and metabolism in plants also follow discrete circadian clocks.
Ta number zo da nganzu din butagi digi ani chicken dre di number zo shu tsai jeli ya tene pa nganzu yang ji khajo ro pye je ani zixing gi dre kan pa du sin nganzu shue yin ta zixing gi dre da du zu the di yang khuzu khar cha de gi yore si zambala yang phige gi ani chi gi tunjin khondre ani da nang gi chu ju ro jo ra mo digi ani je su yang chi tu je ta da ro ju ngi jin shi kan dru de gi ani number cha de gi yore.
So, for example, when I was in the monasteries a couple of years ago, we did an experiment with planting seeds and seeing how they were germinating in different types of light or even in the absence of light. And what we noticed, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, ta number zo pena cha ba ina Quran di ani khar sigore duala gomba nalle yundi chambala ani gomba nalle yundi chambala ani duala ani chishin dinde da ani chishin burgu thede burgu ya den ani khar sig kondre ani ngejin chigina la yongdi gi yedba du thede ni thong song se so do jire.
And with this type of experiment, we could actually notice when we get this evidence that, for example, growth of plants is based on the absence and or presence of light. And that kicks in this clock and cycle for growth.
That dil di chambala ani dinzu gi pena cha na chishin tap chi gi yo din de che ndu ani tene ani chi gi phige khar se gore ani chi gi nyime gi we da tuze tak da ji kan la che ndu chambala da nga zu chi ndre jorwa di esu ni di gi yo de ba di nga zu ani ha ko thu gi yo res ko ga ji de se bu shara ko thu mi no.
And for the last few minutes, we have about 15 minutes or so before we take a break. I'm going to talk about something slightly different, which is quorum sensing.
Tanganzu de ani chigi kharsu gore ani phazi male ngoli ya tanda kama chonga su do din du sambala nganzu ani tanda nganzu thanglang de du se joro odi gane ya du sin kama shue nis.
Quorum sensing, my friends, is a way for bacteria to be able to coordinate movement and communication between each other. And this is based on density.
Tadila di Zambala, the quorum sensing city, the Zo Karcha de Giore, Zambala, Penachashan, and Butari, the Ani Chigi Karsugore, Rukagi Tone, and Pandidugi Chigi, Legache Jorwa, Jorwa, Nyamneche Jorwa, or the Dicha de Giore, so dear so any Karsu Zambala, any Chigi, Tunzin Kundri Karsur, Tunzin Kundri Rans, say in a Kanda Nyamle to Niche de Chadigiores.
So for example, on the left in this panel, we have very few bacteria. We have 3, right? They're not really communicating much. On the right, we have a lot of bacteria. They're coming together and they're lighting up. They're essentially giving off this fluorescence within their group.
Tapena chashana pigin anol teba imbaina pigin anol butasum zimadum menduas and sujo din anol butari mambu shivijin duas tam butari mambu shiviji du sin ne nyam du to sin du sambala ani kunzu ge pena chashana ani khariche yung gore su sambala ani chege nganzo fluorescent chig we do stage jor wada khanda shiju ge thone o dinde cha yung gores.
And what is really, really interesting is that this type of behavior is really important for the production of antibiotics and or antivirals for the protection of illness in humans.
That deal with Sambala, Dindegi, Yamnegi Tony, any Chedi, Duzutedi, Karila Kenga Chamuchag, Yores, Lava Yimbaina, and then Azuching Gosu Tria, Tandangan Gosu, some antibiotic like you are, and Tavana Shinjigi, any Anchigi Pigi Tusin, the Aching Kardicha to and Gosu Tria Jorwa, or Duzutedi Mississippi Chamuchayung Yores.
So, a really fascinating example that I love to talk about is the squid, the bobtail squid, and the bacteria Vibrio fischeri that you could see on the right side.
Tanaba Zuchi Gain Korangi, any intro this a chick the Kari Institute Zambala, Tandanganzu Din Standaka, any Karasigore, Tanda the squid Sidu Zambala, Soja di Chadi Yoras, and Tine Maimbe Shembaji, the Vibrio and fishery alagidua, or the Dichadi, yes, Tidanjane, Tanandi to Danjane.
So what is really, and this is really an awesome example, is that when the bacteria condense, as you could see on the right, they send this luminescence and the bottom belly of the squid lights up.
Chezadilla Zambala Pena Chash and the Penzinchi Karis Zambala and the squeeze Korangi. Soja dish doa, soja digging along any Tandangan Butari Mambushi to Nyam the Cho in the Zambala, and Tandangan weight series or weight said in the Zambala, any Jadin squeeze Korangi when it's a weight trace on the number 20 doa or the Chadig or rest under.
So on the left, you can see a squid that does not light up. The condensation is not there of the bacteria. On the right side, where they're very condensed, they're sending a lot of light. And the importance is that at night, they essentially hide their shadows from predators.
Cheza that number so any dikhares di Zambala, any usual Tandanganzu Penachashana, any Chigi Butarinium the Mambushi so mevache, the Netsu Yeshol Mambushi so yovache, and so yova digi, any Karichigi Resu Zambala, any Chigi Mambushi Trogi, dividing on the numbers 20 to us, any Gondala, any Konzukar Sigur Zambala, any with the Meva Davujitone, any Kunzu, any Zo the Pigilumba Chingi Jorwa, Tanzutelia, YouTube Chigu Yorwa, Montindegi, any Chawachigi or Respendo Yores Kevin.
And what is really interesting is that the fact that this type of behavior, you could see on the left, one of these bobtail squids lighting up at night, right? They're hiding their shadows from predation. So this follows a circadian rhythm movement, right? During the day, the bacteria do not condense, they do not light up, right? At night, when the squid becomes active, the bacteria come together and they light up. So this follows a circadian clock.
That deal with some numbers of piggy now Sigiduas and a piggy Nalola, Tandangan to squeeze so Jua. That digi any piggy ya parse da Tanda. Butadi Mambu Yumegi to the number the Kevandu, the Vadi Sigiduas, and Dilla di Zambala, and Tindegi, Chungrin, the Werntrova, the Wermantrova, bacteria to Nyam to so Nyamleg so Shiju Chejorwa, the Ketchimbucha de Giovat Samasi, the so the Cariton Yungu Resi Zambala, the Chorim Tea, Anichigi, Tunzin Kundri Jigi, Jason in Yungu, the Vadi Yunu Yundan, the Tunzin Kundri Jigda, and Jenny Yungu, the Vadi Chadi.
So knowing, and this is a question for all of you, knowing that this is a cycle that happens only at night when the squid becomes active, do you think this is a circadian rhythm, yes or no? And
so this one happens only in the night.
Go ahead.
So this one happens only in the night, did you say?
Yes, the lighting up happens at night. My question is, do they think this is a circadian rhythm or not?
Chezanda Duzuti the will try to Zuti the any Gondan Senama the Yungu Mares, Yungu Midu Sambala, that ding on Tunzim Kundri, Pensuji Chagi or Chagi Yoma, the numbers of Gomba Chevan and the Tunzim Kundri the Mares. Yes.
Absolutely, right? And what's really interesting is that during the day, here on the left, we have this squid on the left, it's basically asleep. These types of animals are nocturnal, so they're active at night.
Chezadil Zambala Penachashan and Yimekon Chashaba in Baina Karchak the Ursu Zambala, and then Yimekon Kuzu the Pagum and Semul Pagua, Yimekon any the way Payadi, Yimekon Seadi, and then Yimekon Payadi, and then Semuchi will Chadigi.
So I would certainly agree that quorum sensing is a type of circadian clock utilized by the squid.
Tiladi Sambala, and Choranzo Sumbana Shinchigi, and the Talan Ritu de, and a Tandanganzo, Tinjun Kundri Shada Chadi or rest, that ding on Sony Pejuche, Zutedi, Tanda King Rishi Japson Tagaran, the Chadi or rest.
We could even go far as to say that we could actually time the movement and the rhythms minute by minute.
Tanganzu to Dinema, Tuzema, Tadu de Sambala, and Tandangazuki, and it's Tinjun Kundri, the Yonda Zutede, and the Kamane Pa do station, the Yunguyores.
So in this panel, we have different lengths of time, right, in minutes. And throughout time, when the bacteria come together and they congregate, they form a high density sort of group, they start to bioluminesce.
Cheza dile di sambala pena chachana dina kare yungu yore su di sambala ane tsu nyam do mamundu yun di sambala lu wege ngazi di shuk chimbucha wege ngazi di shuk chimbucha yun di sambala ane khunzuk thanda di ane guru gi takar su gore de chik nyamne che thanda di chanung ridu che de yung di gi duas.
So with this type of evidence, right, we can infer, know that bacteria utilize a clear cyclical synchronization.
Okay. That deal with Sambala, Dinzugi, Nizula, Teva, Yimbatene, and Anzugi, any Tinsi, Jumzinji, current range, who you are a Silava Yimbaina, any Jumzinchi, any Tandanganzu, Penachashana, Kunzu, Koji Yorwa, that synchronized the Sambala Tsundi or Wata, Koji de Chigi, Pigay, Yamneg on the Tsung, Yundi, Yudevachik, Tindigi, Yudevaji, Anzugi, any Anjudam Namasuna, Tinsi Namasuna, those Jumzin, Tindela, then Dom Javshogu.
And it is based on this type of cycle, congregating, condensing, bioluminescing, that we do consider this to be a type of circadian rhythm.
Cheza dile du sambala danganzu pena chashina wen chowa da chunyam du duwa ta ani tenzu chegi ane dan la ani ta yin du sambala nganzu kharin ani ndishi jab thugu yore le du sambala dia an tunjin khondru gi ani chigi ri chig sheda ba ji gi ba de nganzu lab thugu yores.
So the question is, for all of you, do all bacteria, are all bacteria able to make light?
That deal with Sambala number so Tivajus, and in Buta Ritamji gi, any way the Suetugi or West, Wetungi or West.
And anyone can answer.
Su in a chicken and the degrees number zone. No, many
right?
of them
Actually,
said no.
Most bacteria are not able to make light. So they're very different from this type of bacteria.
Cheza dile du Sambala, any Karsugore, Butari Chazangi, Tandangazu, Wesway, so to your mares, that under D, so the any Koran of which Tomuma, Manda was which had yores.
But even with bacteria that do not make light, right, in this particular example, if we put a dish of different bacteria and we expose them to light from the environment, it could be either sunlight or a light bulb, they do follow a growth pattern based on the presence of light.
Cheza that deal with Sambala Penachashana, any bacteria, any Tana Butarilia, we manage Chasha, Danganzu, any dermajig in Alola, any bacteria, then the Rimambushisha, any way Menjo the Zutedelia, any Anzo, any Nimi with the tea in the Sambala, any Dilashishane, any Yanko Nimi with the Latune, Yankoranzo, Condreta Jorwa, Dichadegores.
So, for example, most bacteria do not make light. You put them in different rooms, you expose them to light. And in this particular example, A, B, D, and E, so these four right here, right? You could see the rings that are growing outwards based on the presence of environmental light.
Cheza dile di sambala da number so penachashana, that digna no ani dermasondro with the A, B, D, E duas, dile di sambala, ani Koranzo, ani Nimigi will shine, tell a tune, ani Yankunzo pa, ani Kakendu, the Vachina, Jachi.
Right. And the last example I will talk about right before we run out of time before our break is a type of fish. This is a really interesting example of how circadian rhythms evolve in animals.
아니 다 수자 바시 마다 용어리야 다디 펜션 타마 다우드 나버줄 슈야 카리 시드 삼발라 다디 피게 응우유기 디체 다디 아니 피주기 나노라 아니 튼준 콘트 칸데 총 유미기 다디 안치 펜션 야구지 차디기 요레스.
So here is a species of fish known as a Mexican tetra. They actually belong and they live in Mexico, my country. They are a species that live either on the surface or on caves, within caves. And the ones that are within the cave.
Okay.
Yeah.
아니 나버조 다디 냐지 tunzutredi 카레 시드 잠발라 냐기리 나노 단다 콘주게 에스트로너스 케치 라기도아리 인주디 조디 코란조 아니 메 카르소노 멕시코 촐데 유딘 주티네지레도와 다 딜리아 니리 린드멘다와 니 요레스타 니리 리멘다와스나 칸다 콘주게 리멘다와 니 찍디 카레 시드 잠발라 아니 추응올이야 nga 데딩에 지다 찍양지 베드 코나 아니 트라부그마 딩딩 만주딩에 추기요와 뭐 딘데기리 니 차디기요레스.
And what is really interesting, the ones that live on the surface, they look like normal fish. The ones that live within the cave, they do not have coloration and they do not have eyes, even though they have an eye socket.
Tadiladu Zambala Penachashana, any Piggy Zulteva in Baina, any Kuzu Chigdi Karasi Zambala, Chunda Yuva, the Mi Yuva Shadik Duas, and a Shemba Trabuna, you didn't do the Karasi Zambala, and then Chunda made Devache, and a Tandu Migi Piggy Ombo Nanogidi, Truchayuna, Chi Ming Tongi, Migi Yorwa, as Miri that Zuti Yorwa, or Tunzumeva Shadik Yores.
And you can imagine the ones within the cave, the ones without eyes, they do not have exposure to sunlight. So even though they are the same species, they look very different.
Cheza dil zambala da pena chashana ani cheba anchi khari yungu yore sidu zambala ani mige tribunal de che ani chigin kuyu gi thone ani nimi gi wedi phogumi du zambala ani chidi niri chigba imba inaya ani phata du zambala ani mandawa shibidin de chadwa de yundi gi duas.
So the question is really, how is it that the circadian clock allows the cave fish without eyes adapt to the environment?
Cheza dilodu sambala tiwa khari cha yungu yore sidu sambala ani tunjung khondru dinde tunjung khondru gi ani ramdela tene tanda mi minge gi nyade ani kuyu dinde gi nalo ala tunju che gi ani da ramde na masuna shukje na masuna karite yor kandeste yore se di cha de yores.
And what is really interesting, and here's where I will end with this particular slide, is that research from 2014 has shown that the cave fish still have a circadian rhythm even though they're not exposed to sunlight.
Cheza dadi nidong chupsing nano la nsiri gi nyamshi chevares nyamshi gi nano la ani khare tungu yore sidu sambala tanda trapu nano gi nya duzu chede nime gwe phogi meba imba inaya kunzu gi nisha kharsu gore nime wedi phogi meba imba inaya ani kunzuliya an tunjin kunzu ye debadi ani radu chevares.
And what is really interesting is that if we were to measure the oxygen consumption here on the y-axis across the 24-hour rhythm circadian clock, the cave fish with the purple line is flat. So they conserve a lot of energy within their 24-hour cycle.
Cheza da number zo digi ani nganzo piri gi dinalo teba yimba ina pasho dig nalo ani nganzo chonu khaje ya lingi yimegi ani chadigi yores tanda de waigi sholo dinwa chujo dig nalo ani chuse nishzashi gin kondri din chadigi yores teledi sambala ani kharlagi yores du sambala tanda nganzo ani digi ani piri le teba yimba ina tanda nganzo nya mi menjo chabu nalon sone chidingi duzu chedigi ani chigi kharso gore chonungi ya lense de saze na masuna ani shibuji nuban masuna shibuji mangbulingi yedewa an jugu yedewa ditungu yores.
So what is really interesting is that even though they still have a cycle, they are preserving and conserving energy throughout their 24-hour period.
Chezanda delodi zambala da kunzugi karlese zambala chuzi nishisa shigna lola ane chig nuba nyawa da ane muntu ni dusun ju dewa sagi ye dewa denzu de chadigi yo resta kanda kunzugi tunjun kunjugi.
Good. So my friends, I believe it is 10:31, so we can take a break at this point. We have half an hour break. We'll come back at 11 and we'll continue with the next session.
다 넘버 조는 간주 단도데 수제 파신디 샤기 수제 파신디 젤다 가마 추즈 체가 제라인 단도 민투네 간주 디네 반드에